Greetings and welcome, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to episode 310 of the Words About Games podcast, the weekly news, culture, and gaming discussion podcast for Words About Games. I'm your host, Amy K. Alexander, and in a last-minute switcheroo, even the notes still say Moody's here, I'm joined by Elf Daughter of youtube.com/elfdaughter. And twitch.tv/elfdaughter, and instagram.com/elfdaughter, and twitter.com/elfdaughter.
Basically everything at Elf Daughter.
Yeah. Holler at Elf Daughter. Very good, very good. How are you?
I'm very well. A little bit sniffly from hay fever, but other than that, I'm all good.
At least it's just hay fever.
It's just hay fever.
Everybody's going down with COVID around me. Like
definitely not that.
I've only ever caught it once, but I like when you can tell when it's like, I don't like, because we don't publish the testing figures anymore because COVID is over apparently. So it's like the way you tell there's a wave coming is just like, oh, Phil's got it, Ariel's got it, Sphere's got it, Moody's got it. It's just like, yeah, okay, here we go again. Like, tons of people are getting it. All right, we're gonna have another wave of fucking COVID. Like, what's this, the 6th wave or something? Like,
I've lost count.
That's fucking ridiculous. Like, okay, but anyway, you sniffly with hay fever. That sucks. But apart from that, how are you doing? How's your week been?
That, I'm all good. Been busy at the new job, and settling in well.
You're smiling, and your ears are perked up. So I'm assuming the job is going well.
It's going really well. It is. Yes.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I think this intro, just chatting intro, is going to be like a Dear Diary situation. Because, like, do you ever get to the end of a week, right? And then you think, oh man, I didn't do anything that week. And then, like, you sit down on, I don't know, say a podcast, and you need stuff to talk about for the intro to, like, warm yourself up. And then you're like, actually, you know what?
I did a heck of a lot.
I did some stuff this week.
Yeah. Well, it's my birthday this week, so that helped.
It was your birthday. Happy birthday. I was almost late. I wasn't actually late.
No. You're about 3 minutes away from it.
You didn't tell anyone. Like, we literally played our group literally played Dungeons and Dragons, and you could have been like, it's my birthday. But you didn't.
I'll be honest. No, I'll be honest. Until about Wednesday, I'd even forgotten it was that week.
I think I just clicked your Twitter and the balloons started flying across the screen, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yep.
The balloons mean something.
I think I got a couple of messages from people on Discord only because they've got the birthday bots in there, and then they come up with the it's Elf Daughter's birthday.
All right, didn't know that was a thing. I don't go on Discord very much. Except play Phasma Ryan. Did you catch any of the Phasmophobia stream on Wednesday night?
I was in bed. I was so tired.
So, okay. One, it's going to be June's highlight video is going to be off the fucking chain, unreal, so good. Because so me and Ryan were getting, right, we loaded up Phas. We did a couple of ghosts. One of the new ghosts is, it's really fast, but then it gets slower as it gets towards you, so you can literally just walk around a table, Benny Hill it around a table. And I was just like, I'm sick of the houses, like, basically. And I said this to Ryan, and I was like, I want to do like a fucking big map. Like, I don't like the asylum. It's too big.
Yeah.
Hate it. Looking forward to the redesign. But like, I want like the school and the prison. Like, they're great. But, like, with only 2 of us, like, by the time we've looked around, it's like our sanity's gone and one of us is getting killed by a ghost because there's only 2 of us. And then he was like, because we did this the stream before, because we started doing these candlelight vigil things where it's like, when you have to get a photo of the ghost, so we go in there and try and rile it up. And we were like, what if we did it by candlelight? And it was really spooky and it was awesome. But then he was like, yeah, but remember our sanity just didn't drop if you're holding a candle.
Ah, okay.
So we were like, okay. So then we played the entire rest of the night with candles instead of flashlights.
Nice.
Candles make it easier. Yeah. Like, because you can go on for ages. Like, even if you put it down and you're standing next to it, your sanity barely, like, drops down. Okay. but it makes the game a lot scarier because you're standing in a prison. So like the prison level we did, where we first tried it out, we walked through with candles, and Ryan had, because you've got the lighter and the candle, and then you've only got room for one other thing. So like Ryan had a thermometer and I had an EMF reader, and like for one, you're walking around in the dark. Basically, you can't see shit. And then it was like you got the prison, and you're looking out for ghosts, not just based because you can't always have the thermometer out because you won't be able to see anything.
Yeah.
So we were also looking around based on like the ambience. Like, do we hear something? Do we see something? And then we got to the cell block, and I was like, well, we turn all the lights on in the cell block, and we turned all the lights on at the computer, and then it was like bang. What was that? We both looked up. It was like the door, like one of the doors had slammed shut. So we're like, so the ghost that we got when we were doing candles was in the giant cell block. So yeah, tried to cover this giant cell block, and we were mostly using the lights until it blew out the light at the door. It was terrifying, but like it was super easy to not go in like hunt threshold because we had all the candles and stuff. But it was a case of like we were trying to figure out like whereabouts the ghost was. So I stood next to one of the tables with a candle next to me and a parabolic microphone, like trying to like see if I could like if you hear a noise, like figure out where it came from and stuff. And a book moved just ever so slightly like that on the table, and it freaked me out because there was movement, and I was just like, oh shit.
Yep.
And then from then on, it was.
I've got to see the clips of that. I absolutely got to see the clips of that. I
had a heart attack at one point. I'll find the time that I was in. We were in the lodge doing a candles only thing, and we needed a photo of the ghost. And like, yeah, you'll see. I don't want to spoil any of it for you. It was awesome though. It was just like we were talking about it to Ruthless, where it was just like, you know, we play this game to get scared, right? So like, you know, if it's scary, that's good. Like,
yeah, Yeah,
it's a horror game. Like, if you don't want to get scared, don't play it. That's it's kind of you're kind of defeating the point if you're like, oh, I don't want it to be too scary. I'm just like, no, bring on the more scary. I am not playing with a flashlight anymore.
Oh wow!
Like,
so when are you going to play it in VR?
Yeah, well, that might be too soon. When I stop drinking the energy drinks, so I'm at less of a risk of heart attacks. Or for charity, one of the two.
Yeah.
If I'm going to die, I might as well die raising money for a good cause. But if you play in VR, you get two hands, so I can hold a candle in one hand and a tool in the other hand. There was a point where we were carrying the cameras through, and it was like, oh, you can't hold a camera and a candle. So Ryan was behind me with a candle, and I was walking, and I had the night vision on the camera screen. And the worst part was I had to go first because I could see more than he could. So I was leading him through, but I was also leading him through with like black and white fucking night vision.
God, found footage.
It was found footage. It was fucking great. It was just so much fun. Like, it was the most fun I've had in the game for a while. And it probably was like, you know how like we've been getting frustrated with like how scary the game is, like how much the game is. Like now, it's like any little thing that happens like is instantly like terrifying. So like I feel like the game hasn't gotten any different, but because of the way we're playing it, it's just more unnerving. But if you check the stream out, like I can't remember. It's like an hour in, I think, where we decided to make the switch. Just looked at the prison because that's where we did it first, and then from then on, it was just like we didn't get a demon. And as I said right at the end of the stream, like what happens when we do candles, and we get a demon? Like, I think there's two moments where I freaked out to the point where I physically ran away, like in the game. Like I had to put my distance between myself and the thing that happened. And I don't remember what the second thing was because I didn't see it. But I blacked out. saw all of us. I was running out of the door like, and I hid behind the bins outside. But anyway, I didn't mean to spend most of this intro talking about Phasmophobia, but we've still got time left because I did lots of stuff. I went to a fun fair. There's pictures on my Instagram. That was cool. Had a hot dog. Gotta have a hot dog. I don't do rides though, like roller coasters and shit. And like, there's some fucking ridiculous shit. Like there was one ride there where it like sends you fucking way up into the sky, and then it's like there's a car on either end of the thing, and it like spins round. And I was like, I was watching it like, fuck that. And the person I was with Nelly, who's like the big. She's like, and I love you, in case you ever see this. You're the biggest wimp in Phasmophobia. But like, we were stood under that thing, and she was like, that looks like fun. And I was like, how does that look like fun?
No.
We found the spot where we stood right underneath it, so it's like coming down and around top of stuff. And it was just like, I was like, so even standing here looking at this, like, I don't want to stand here.
Yeah.
I did the waltzer.
Yeah.
And that was fun, I guess.
I think the last time I went to the Hoppings, I was probably early teens.
Cool. It hasn't changed. Like I said to Nelly when we went, I was like, it's like I walked into a time warp, and then it's the 90s in this field.
Yeah.
Because like literally, like you go in, and like like the fucking like the celebrities and stuff on like the rides and stuff, it's still like fucking Britney Spears and like wrestlers from the 90s, and like there's like a bouncy house like thing, and it's like it's the Simpsons, but it's like the 90s Simpsons. It's like the old style drawings of the Simpsons, and I was just like, what? And like I'm sure some of these rides have been here since like the 90s, like been coming here since the same rides, and I was just like, it's the 90s in here. And then I found like one ride when there's like pictures of like the Avengers on them, and I was like, okay. So I haven't gone back in time. They were selling these. Like, you could win Among Us.
Really?
Yeah, one of the things on one of the stalls you could win was Among Us.
Nice.
Plushies. I took a photo of it, but it was blowing in the wind, so I couldn't get it to like face me properly. And then as I was taking photos, like the person who was running the stall was giving me like evil looks, and I was like, I should leave now. I should leave now.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I'm talking to someone about starting a whole new project that's got nothing to do with video games. Maybe now people will believe me when I say I'm not just video games.
Maybe.
Probably not, though.
No.
It's gonna be fun. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, and like we were doing the thing where it was just like, we should do this. Yeah, that'd be funny. Yeah, but... And then you keep laughing and joking about it, and then we've just kind of gotten to the point where it's like, wait, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? I think we might actually be, like, serious. So that's going to be fun. It's cool. It'll be fun. And yeah, like, there's other stuff I'm doing, but I don't... Yeah. You know when you're doing stuff and you're like, I might do something with this.
Yeah.
But you don't want to say what it is in case, like, you don't do anything with it. Then everyone's like, whoa, you do the thing. And you're like, I'm not. Fuck off.
Yeah.
But I've been writing a lot of stuff down in one of my journals that isn't actually journaling. It's been... So, yeah, it's like, I didn't do much that week. Yeah, I did. I also watched, like 6 YouTube series. Like, like the... like the found footage, like horror stuff on YouTube, where it's just like, ooh, this might be real. It's never real. But it's like, oh, they present it as if it's real. Yeah. I watched like 6 of those. And then for some reason I had trouble like sleeping properly on Friday night. I don't know why. I was just like mainlining YouTube horror all day. I was like,
why you weren't sleeping?
Ooh, what's that shadow? Oh, what was that totally explainable noise? But it was good. I saw some good stuff. and saw some terrible stuff as well. I saw one which was amazing, and then wasn't, and that made it even better because like it just devolved into something that was really funny, and I was laughing my ass off at the end of it, and I was just like, "This is amazing." And then I found a YouTuber who did, because there's a YouTuber who I used to like see all the stuff and then like see what they've talked about and then watch that stuff. And I was like, I have to go and like click on their video and see what they said about the last. Because it was like the second season, like because they had like 2 seasons on YouTube. I was like, I have to see what this YouTuber said about the second season, and yeah, like they were on the same page. We were on the same page, and like the last shot of the series, like he started laughing, and I was like, cool, because that was exactly my reaction as well. Like the last shot of the series, and I just started laughing. I was like, yeah, get him. It's really bad, but like I don't ever want to be like, yeah, you suck, because like, you know, you put a lot of time working and creating something. It's just, I'm over my phase of like calling things shit. I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, you're getting soft, Amy. Well, let's watch this podcast and find out. Because this is the Words About Games podcast. Every Monday, you get a video version of the show on youtube.com/wordsaboutgamesuk, or an audio version on a variety of platforms, including Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and more. I take a breath at a really awkward moment in that sentence. There's timestamps in the description wherever you choose to get your podcast, so you can see what we've been chatting about, skip around, or watch the entire podcast backwards if you like. We don't mind. We're just happy that you're here. If you'd like to support the show or our content directly, you can buy us a coffee over at coffee.com/wordsaboutgames. Always appreciate it if you do that, but don't feel like you have to. Lastly, if you want to hang out with us while we play some games, head over to twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. And if you want to hear us talk about and review some video games, we publish reviews on our YouTube channel. It's going to be pretty light on reviews this week. I think I've got like one 60-second review coming out. And I think the next day I've got like to work on stuff like that is Saturday. So it's like, well, nothing else is going to come out this week. Like, I'm trying to get the highlights video for May done because it's the end of June. It's like, I have to get that out by Thursday, really, before July starts. But also because I'm really excited to edit June's highlights video just for the fast footage. It's just going to be fucking ridiculous. But yeah. Also, as I was editing, I'm about halfway through editing Maze, and I did a Fall Guys stream, and like partway through the Fall Guys stream, I was like, oh, I fancy fish and chips because I needed to eat after the stream because I didn't eat before the stream. And I was like, oh, let me just look up how, like, can you do them both in an air fryer? Yeah, of course you can. You get that little metal thing so you can put the fish on top and the chips underneath. And I was like, well, can you do them both at the same time? Because they need to both cook at the same temperature at the same time. So I was like, let me ask Google. Oh, a recipe. And then the next 40 minutes of the stream has been going through this recipe, which was so long and not about fish and chips. Like, and it's like, I've cut it all down, and it's like, I've cut it all down. There's still like 5 or 6, maybe more minutes of me losing my mind at this fucking fish and chips recipe. So I'm just going to like sprinkle it throughout the video. It's just like, there's twists and turns to that story that you'll never see coming.
I need to watch this, definitely.
Just like, it starts off and I'm just like, oh, and I don't even realize how long it is. I'm just like, oh, okay, like, it's got the backstory, you know, the lore of like fish and chips, was my favorite meal as a child, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I give it to the kids every, like, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Then it devolves, and all I'm trying to do is find how long I have to put fish in an air fryer for.
Oh, brilliant!
They always say like most of this YouTube channel is scripted content, right? But like, you know, it's true what they say. Like sometimes the best content comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Whereas like that was just supposed to be a chill Fall Guys stream, and then I decided I fancied some fish, and I got a 40-minute comedy sketch. That wasn't meant to be comedy. Much like this podcast. Shall we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. Roe v. Wade reversal hurts game developers. This is from Brian Francis over at Game Developer. This is not a news story. This is an op-ed written by Brian Francis, and I pulled some of the paragraphs out of it. I think I've pulled most of the paragraphs out of it because like it popped up as I was doing the show notes. I looked at Twitter and I was like looking for like news stories and stuff. Like it was like a jumping off point to talk about what happened in America last week. And then I saw this op-ed and I was reading this op-ed and I was like, this op-ed is the perfect jumping off point because it covers off most of the things that I would want to bring up. At the time, it was the things that Being Moody could talk about. I remember your last episode was hell.
Yeah.
I apologize for how this episode is going to start, April. It's not as bad as it was the last time you were here. I mean, Roe v. Wade is obviously horrific and barbaric, but the whole podcast isn't like it was that last time you were here. Anyway,
it was all bad news.
It's not this time. There's a trigger warning at the top of this for pregnancy-related medical issues and sexual assault. This is going to be pretty long, so apologies to everybody who hates the sound of my voice, including you, future Amy. Because I know you hate the sound of your voice. You're spending enough money on voice therapy. Brian Francis writes, the Supreme Court of the United States' decision to reverse Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 Supreme Court case that guaranteed a constitutional right to an abortion, comes as no surprise to those following the court since Justice Antonin Scalia's death in 2016. It is understandable that others might be shocked. Not only has Roe v. Wade been considered a, quote, settled law, end quote, for half a century, but the justices appointed to the court from 2017 through 2021 all told Congress that they agreed with that status quo. The court ruling is reversed and abortion will be illegal in 13 states in the next 30 days. 9 other states are likely to follow. As part of today's decision, obviously this was written on the day, Justices Clarence Thomas also indicated a willingness to reverse the Supreme Court rulings that fully legalized homosexuality, access to contraceptives, and same-sex marriage. The health and safety of game developers and other workers in the game industry are now severely at risk. That risk has been apparent ever since Texas passed its law outlawing abortion by attempting to circumvent the legal precedent set by Roe v. Wade. After that law passed and the courts refused to strike it down, game developers in Texas, or considering jobs in Texas, began to realize that the law could directly affect their livelihood. As noted at the time, Texas is a major hub for the United States video game industry. As of late 2021, an estimated 270 game companies employ over 20,000 workers in the state. Should any of those employees require an abortion, they will be required to travel across state lines to obtain it. Luckily, the video games industry appears to have been preparing for that possibility. Companies like Electronic Arts, Sony, Certain Affinity, Bungie, and more have either publicly or privately indicated their intent to financially support employees who seek such travel. There are a cascading series of physical and psychological impacts that abortion bans might have on individual game developers. The risks will impact them in different ways. Broadly, restrictions on access to abortion are associated with an increase in maternity-related deaths. This has been particularly true in Texas. Many of the abortion bans protected by today's ruling do not allow for abortions in the case of a medical emergency. If a planned pregnancy suddenly runs into complications, it would not be legal to seek an abortion in these states. The authors of many of those same abortion bans also explicitly refused to provide exceptions for rape or incest. If an individual in those states is sexually assaulted, they might need to travel outside state lines to seek necessary medical care. Excuse me. Lastly, there is the simple fact that people who do not wish to give birth or raise children might now be forced to do so. Giving birth is a painful process, and pregnancy can take on an incredible toll on the human body. In 2013, the United Nations classified a lack of access to abortion as, quote, torture, end quote, in recognizance of this fact. They repeated this sentiment after the Supreme Court ruling. Many game developers are very well aware of the risks and often navigate career decisions based on these facts. After Texas's ban went into effect, we heard from developers that discussed not accepting jobs at studios based in the state and a reluctance to pursue Texas-based opportunities. If these companies are not willing to provide remote options for candidates who fear for their health and safety, they will have unequal access to career advancement in the world of video games. Lastly, there is still the fact that the video game industry is reckoning with a history of sexual discrimination, abuse, and harassment in the workplace. While discussing the Texas law, one developer we spoke with pointed out that it adds a layer of fear for any developers who have experienced stalking or abuse in the workplace. The video game industry's long-standing tradition to stay out of politics has meant that few major companies spoke up against the potential reversal of Roe v. Wade after an unknown source leaked a draft of today's decision to Politico in April. Even worse, company leaders like Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan or executives at Electronic Arts have pushed back against employee requests to take a public stance. Ryan asked employees to, quote, respect differences of opinion, end quote, on abortion, and EA's leadership's internal stance was that it would not be, quote, inclusive, end quote, to decry such a decision. It would later partly reverse this stance. Ryan would also follow up his request by attempting to, quote, lighten the mood, end quote, by discussing his cat's birthday party and talking about his desire to get a dog. Today's confirmation of the Supreme Court's decision has driven more companies, including many Sony subsidiaries, to publicly speak up in favor of access to reproductive rights. Many are indicating that they will support their employees if they require access to reproductive care outside of their states. Others are encouraging fans to donate to nonprofits that support abortion access. Excuse me. Many major game studios have already begun to speak up and decry the reversal of Roe v. Wade. In 2021, developers speaking to Game Developer made different arguments compelling larger companies to speak up and push for further action. One developer pointed out that lawmakers are likely to respond to corporate pressure on this topic since states like Texas are reliant on corporate taxes for revenue more than they are income tax. Another advocated for companies to step up their support for parents at the company. Employees who are forced to give birth, or whose family members are, may need more support in the form of parental leave, breast pumping accommodations, and more. The video game industry also struggles to create equality for developers with different marginalized backgrounds. Today's Supreme Court ruling is an earth-shattering moment that will dramatically impact the lives of all Americans. It was long, sorry. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Twitter absolutely blew up the moment this was announced.
Can I just say, I was taking a nap. I went for a nap, and I woke up about 20 minutes after this happened.
Yeah.
My sleepy post-nap fugue, as I was scrolling through Twitter, like made it very surreal. Sort of like 10, 15 minutes while I was waking up. Sorry, continue.
And it was just, it was shocking. It really was. I did not expect that it would be overturned, I have to admit. For me, it's just, I mean, I was here obviously for the last podcast when we were talking about the cat's birthday post.
Everybody's favorite CEO, Jim Ryan. Yes.
Yeah. The companies who are standing up and saying, you know, we're going to give them our employees the rights that they are entitled to, have my full support, absolutely. But more companies need to do it. More developers need to say, look, this isn't right. We need to take a stand. And rather than just being wishy-washy on the fence, we need to respect other people's opinions. Sorry, no, there is no respecting other people's opinions when it comes to this. It's a human right. What was it that's the United Nations said?
Torture.
Yeah, torture. Which I agree with. You know, it's.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It is definitely like if you force someone to give birth to a child they don't want to give birth to, you're torturing them.
Now, this may be triggering for some people, so another trigger warning going up. But I saw the amount of posts that I saw on Twitter or comments saying stuff along the lines of, well, if you don't want the child, then don't do the deed. And I posted a comment, something along the lines of, okay, so what about little Katie, who was sexually abused at the age of 13 by her stepfather, whose body is too immature, and too young to be able to withstand childbirth. Are you going to put her life at risk because she chose, which she obviously didn't choose, to do the deed. It's just wrong. It's just so wrong. It's like going back to the Middle Ages, where women were controlled by the bodies of those people who can give birth are being controlled by white men in power who think they know better than everybody else. It's just wrong. And where does it go from here? It's
well,
it's just
it's in the opinion of Justice Thomas, who said that they should take a look at the three other. What is the Supreme Court thing? Is it? It's not law. It's like precedents.
Yeah,
That's it, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Where it's just like they want to go
Yeah.
for. He thinks they should take away. It's in the story: access to contraception, same-sex marriage, and
Yeah.
uh,
Basically, all the said human
yeah.
rights.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what they're going. That's the run of it. That's what they're going for.
It's turning into 1984.
Eh,
It's becoming a Big Brother society. That's what it is.
well, they talk about it like, oh, they're not banning it. They're just sending it. They're just sending the decisions back to the individual states. It's all about states' rights. I remember the last time I was told something was about states' rights.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not American. I don't live there, but I get told a lot. Like I see people get up on their high horse about how fucked America is from here in this country, and I'm just like, go, think, really? Okay, interesting. And the one I did tweet out about, which was they're gonna come over here, like this will come over here if we're not careful. And I was like, mate, it's already here. Like,
Yeah.
we've been screaming about it for years at this point, where it's like, all these anti-trans movements that are in the UK, like the people that are backed by the places like the Heritage Foundation, who are a big part of why this has happened in the United States of America, they're already here. It takes time. Like you can't just do something like this in one fell swoop. Like the forced birthers, the Christian nationalists who have been doing this, have been like laying the groundwork for this for like 40 years. And
this is just the first step.
And like they've been working towards repealing Roe v. Wade for decades.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, no one with political power, and that includes the Democrats, want to do anything about it. Like they're sending out emails saying, "Well, Roe v. Wade is on the ballot for the midterms in November. Like, give us $15 and we can. And if you vote hard enough, we can like enshrine it into federal law." And that's Joe Biden, the president of the United States, and it's like, mate, they voted 2 years ago. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah.
That you're the president now, and you have a majority in they call it a super majority because you have a majority in Congress and you have a majority in the Senate, and they have they also have the presidency, and they're still acting like, ooh, if you vote for us, we might be able to do something about it. And it's like, I get that I get that voting is a nuanced topic, where it's just like, like voting obviously does matter and you should definitely always vote. But in regards to what's happening in the United States right now, and I know I say this as an outsider, as someone who doesn't live there and has been observing it from the outside in horror for the last decade or two, like the voting's not going to solve anything when there's 6 people who are called Supreme Court justices who could just do whatever they fucking want. Like, I saw someone tweet out that like the Supreme Court, like there needs to be checks and balances for a Supreme Court that's gone rogue, because the Supreme Court seems to have gone rogue. And it's like, you're not far off, I don't think. Like, with my limited understanding of how American politics works, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court's not supposed to be able to do all of this, because like Roe v. Wade was like the end of the week. Like they did all sorts of crazy shit. Like, in a week. Like they were talking about it's like religious schools are now supposed to be like have to be funded by the state or whatever. I can't remember what the exact thing is. Roe v. Wade kind of obliterated everything out of that in my brain. But like they did a bunch of stuff, and they're making decisions based on their religion, which in America, like not in the United Kingdom, but in America, there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. And when people talk about the founding fathers, who wrote the Constitution, and like, oh, the Supreme Court is talking about how they're just following the Constitution. One, it was written in the 19th century, and two, I'm pretty sure if the founding fathers knew that there was like a group of Christians on the Supreme Court, I'm pretty sure they would be like, "Excuse me."
Yeah.
That's my limited understanding of it. But to bring it into games, because this is the Words About Games podcast, this is why I want to use this as the launching off point, because I'm sure we're like there's a cabal. I'm going to call this a cabal. There's a cabal of people, both large and small, in the podcasting world or the content creation world about video games, who are going to spend the next week talking about Roe v. Wade. I mean, we're going to spend a lot longer than that, but Roe v. Wade is going to be the biggest talking point of the week, and we're all going to get told we should just stick to talking about video games, as if like, you know, human beings who are affected by forced birthers. I'm not calling them pro-life because that's just a misnomer of the highest degree. They're forced birthers on this podcast from
Yes.
now on.
Yes.
Like people like enforcing this, because 20 states are going to ban abortion in America, and this is going to affect everybody who lives in those states, which means it's going to affect all of the people who work at the video game companies that are in these states. So if you think it's not a video game issue, if you think this isn't anything to do with video games, you are incorrect. Factually incorrect. This has got a lot to do with video games.
Everybody. Yeah.
And the people who, like the companies that are currently making the statements, we're being told, you don't get your politics out of my video games. It's like they're standing up for their employees with the things that they're talking about doing. So they are sticking to making their video games, because they're trying to stick up for the people who are making the video games. And I know like nuance like that doesn't really drill through into like neo-Nazis and fascists' heads. But, you know, some people were born with critical thinking and some people weren't.
Yeah.
It is a skill, though. You can learn it one day. Not that I think you'll choose to. There was no more. That was the end of the burn. I'm just tired of dancing around it. I'm tired of calling.
Yeah.
I'm tired of calling them like TERFs because the F stands for feminist. Like they're not feminists. I'm tired of calling them like alt-right when I can just call them what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it affects absolutely everybody, and that includes video games. So we can't just brush it under the carpet and go, oh, it's politics, we're not going to talk about it. We need to talk about it because this is what's affecting everybody in the industry and out of the industry.
Yeah, like when this broke on Friday, I text Keith this after we did a D&D session, because I was like, I'm so thankful we had a D&D session on Friday night. Yeah. But like I didn't like I get this a lot. I feel this a lot when something happens where it's just like I'm just supposed to sit here and do a podcast about video games while this is happening or that's happening. Like, really? Like I'm supposed to give a shit about what we got here later on Gamescom. Like, you know what I mean? Like Final Fantasy 16, and like I'm supposed to give a shit about that when like the world is collapsing. Like, all right.
Yeah. There are such things as priorities.
Yeah, but hey, we're here. We'll talk about this stuff, and then we'll talk about the other stuff too.
Yeah.
You get the full range here on the Words About Games podcast. It's not escapism, but it is all over the place.
Yeah, that's true.
Except for that one time Alfie was here, and I apologize again for that. Blame the video game industry for being the way that it is.
Blame the world.
I did see a tweet that fucking I mean, I saw. I'm sure we all did. We all saw a lot of tweets
Yeah.
from Friday onwards. There was a tweet on Friday, so I think it was that I saw where someone pointed out that if a woman is sexually assaulted at gunpoint by a man, the thing that has the most rights in that scenario is the gun. Um, and
Absolutely.
that's America.
Yeah.
um, yeah,
That's the state of the world we're in.
yeah, yeah, it sure is. So like, yeah, vote, march, protest, riot.
Yeah.
I suggested it on Friday, and I stand by it. Like Joe Biden's response to Roe v. Wade being overturned seems to be, damn, someone should really do something about this.
Yeah. You think?
I got nothing for you. Like that, I can't. So PlayStation, are the
Yeah.
latest company to skip Gamescom 2022. This is from Tom Phillips over at Eurogamer. He writes, PlayStation is the latest big company to announce it will skip Gamescom this year. The annual European show, held in Cologne, was traditionally the world's largest in terms of visitors. This summer will see Gamescom return as a physical event for the first time since 2019, albeit with fewer publishers in attendance. PlayStation confirmed its decision to skip Gamescom 2022 in a statement to German publication Games Wirtschaft, which it also confirmed it would not feature any announcement in the show's Jeff Feely fronted live stream opening night live. So Sony's move follows a similar decision by Nintendo, which announced earlier this month that, quote, after careful consideration, end quote, it would not attend Gamescom this year. Activision Blizzard and Take-Two have also confirmed they will not take part. Microsoft is yet to publicly state whether it will attend, though it seems unlikely in a year where it has little first-party content to show. The muted attendances for Gamescom this year reflects a quieter than expected Q4 for the games industry as a whole, with various major releases now expected in 2023. Gamescom 2022 is due to run from the 24th to the 28th of August. So far, Bandai Namco and Embracer have confirmed that they will take part. This was weird. Like,
Yeah.
Gamescom's like, in 2019, I think, but it was pre-pandemic. The one of the big talking points of the year is Gamescom now bigger than E3? Because like the attendance was massive. It was a public event, and it was an event where pretty much everybody went. And it also had its own shows. Like it didn't have Jeff Keighley's opening night live thing, but like generally other companies would go to Gamescom. Like Microsoft would do a Gamescom press conference, direct, whatever the fuck they call them.
Yeah.
And like when the world started opening up back up again, whether it's a good idea or not, I always just assumed that like Gamescom would like go back to like being like this huge show. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. Like I don't know. It's weird because like all of these companies like would normally be there. Like
Yeah.
whatever games they've got to like put out, like even when we went to EGX like pre-pandemic, like PlayStation's first party output wasn't, I don't know, I think there was Dreams and like there was a Death Stranding video presentation, but like they still brought tons of their second and third party like stuff like to their stand. And like Xbox had their ID at Xbox stuff, even if they didn't have like major first party games. And Nintendo always had this really cool, colorful, big thing. And I don't know. Like, do you think companies are now just like in general, just like pivoting away from shows in general?
I think they might be. I think certainly maybe post-pandemic, whether they decide that they want to do their own directs or whether they just don't think that they particularly work particularly well in general now. I
mean, that's the
don't know,
thing.
but it seems
Like, there's because there's like the show, the opening night live, which has never really had a big, like, even like the Game Awards never really had a massive like amount of like Nintendo, Xbox, like, you know, PlayStation, like usually like one thing from each of them. But it's like I'm thinking more of like the show in general, like the show floor and all of the games that are being. I mean,
Yeah.
Gamescom is going to be a super spreader event.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
that has.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe that's another reason why perhaps they decided not to take part.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I find it weird.
Mm.
Like I'm trying to apply the filter to the world of like, okay, what would companies do
Yeah.
if we were actually post-COVID? Because that's what they're doing now, even though we're not post-COVID.
Yes.
It's like I'm trying to like disengage the part where it's like, what would Amy do? Because Amy's
Yeah.
smarter.
Yeah.
And like everyone keeps saying, are you going to EGX? And I'm like, my fuckers like going to EGX. You want me to travel to the middle of London in a giant room full of 70,000 people touching all the same controllers and the same keyboards and mice and talking to them? Like, no, I'm alright, thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping at least that's why, because they're being sensible and realizing that it's going to be back. It's going to be the first physical one since 2019, but how many people really, when we think about it,
Hundreds
are
of
actually going to be there?
thousands.
No.
Yeah.
But in comparison to, how it has been, is it actually going to be worth their while for them to do that?
That's true. I don't know. I think it's something we're not really going to get clarity on.
Yeah.
In terms of for years, like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like you can try and like gaze into the crystal ball as much as you want, but you know, it's just something we're gonna have to wait to see. Wait and see what happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The attendance, the number of visitors at Gamescom in 2019 was 373,000. That was obviously spread out across the whole. I want to say 4 days. I never went, even though it was like I never actually went to Gamescom. And then obviously 2020, 2021 NA.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it gets 370,000 visitors this time. Even EGX actually was an in-person event last year in September, and it was very empty from what I was told from people who did go there, in terms of like exhibitors and people who were actually showing games there. Like they had a lot of the space that they had when I went last in 2019, and it was just a lot of empty space. And I saw some videos and stuff, and it was just like, ooh, like I don't go there just for the play the games. Like, this is the thing, like, about not going is that it frustrates me not to go because it's the only time of, like, it used to be the only time of the year where I get to see like certain people who live like way far away from me. And I haven't been able to do that for like years. I was DMing one of my friends about it a couple of months ago, just saying like, it fucking sucks. Like the last time I saw you was in 2019. Like, and I even said, like, oh, I'll see you in March, because that was when the next EGX was going to be in London. So I said, like, even if you don't want to go to because it's the smaller one that happened. And I said, even if you don't want to go to that, like, we'll meet up at some point. And obviously, I had a hotel booked and everything. Like, I was ready to go. Yeah. And then, like, we hugged on a tube. Like a tearful goodbye. And then it was like, oh, but I'll see you soon. I mean, I have on Twitch.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. Like, like I said, I just assumed Gamescom would be pretty much back in full swing. But I'd be interested to see how many more companies actually pull out of this.
That will be,
because you got to think. Excuse me. If enough companies. Enough big companies do pull out of Gamescom, like what's the threshold for Gamescom even being like viable, like in the same form?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And then it's like, well, okay, if Gamescom goes, like are we just seeing like now, like a fundamental shift in the way that like Like, do people even want to go to Gamescom? Like, do people even want to go to EGX? And how do we navigate that? Because I'll be honest, like, if it wasn't for the social aspect, I wouldn't even give a shit about missing EGX this year. Like, I don't really care about playing the game demos. Like, I like to meet the game devs, and I've made some friends while I've been down at EGX. But like, I was never really that fussed about, like, the games were a cool bonus.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. Keeping an eye out. Yeah, okay. The next news story. Developers are pointing to Cyberpunk 2077's Disastrous launch for delays. This is from Vlad Mazanko over at The Gamer. He writes, Cyberpunk 2077's trouble launch was named, quote, a wake-up call across the industry, end quote. End quote? End quote.
End quote. That's a new one.
Sure. For justifying game delays. According to developers, many decided not to repeat the mistakes made by CD Projekt Red and EA with Battlefield 2042. Cyberpunk 2077's launch in 2020 has become notorious with an unfinished game that probably belonged more to a museum hitting shelves in digital stores before it was quite ready to do so. Then in 2021, Battlefield 2042 followed, and it didn't hit new heights for the series as many had hoped. These are just a couple of examples cited by the industry's leading developers as a lesson to learn from. While it is possible still to hit deadlines, increasingly devs are less willing to launch a title that isn't ready. Quote, one anonymous US game director told GamesIndustry.biz, quote, we took one look at what happened at Cyberpunk 2077 and thought, yep, we're delaying this. CD Projekt is one of the most respected game studios in the world, and they released a game so broken that Sony pulled it from their own digital store. That's unprecedented. That's humiliating. We knew our game wasn't in the best shapes. Maybe we could patch it up with a day one update, but we saw Cyberpunk and decided it wasn't worth the risk. I suspect that was a wake-up call across the industry, end quote. Lately, we've seen Bethesda delaying Starfield next year shortly after reports the team were worried their space RPG could be, quote, the next Cyberpunk, end quote. The studio decided to move away from their initial plan despite boss Todd Howard previously saying they were, quote, confident about the date, end quote, since the game was originally scheduled to launch later this year. It seems that CD Projekt Red itself has also learned the lesson, as the studio is showing no rush in terms of Cyberpunk 2077's story DLC. According to what we know, the first expansion won't arrive until 2023, as the team wants to, quote, make sure it's properly crafted, end quote.
Good, quite frankly.
Yes. Thank you. This is why I put this in here, because it was just like, thank fucking God some good came out of the situation with Cyberpunk 2077.
About bloody time they've learned that lesson.
Like, I mean, yeah, it's not like Cyberpunk was unique. Like, it was just the latest game that came out too early and was fucking devastatingly broken and clearly unfinished.
Yes.
So that they could hit a deadline.
Yeah.
But it's about time that this lesson was started to be taken on board, because I think like the more something keeps happening, the more it builds the frustration, and especially considering where we were in the world when Cyberpunk came out late 2020.
Yeah,
like I feel like the frustration just boiled over and exploded, like and some of it went too far, of course. But it's nice to know that game development studios have now taken the lead from it and looked at it and gone, okay, yeah, we should delay our game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes. Rather have a delayed game than an absolute broken mess.
Absolutely. Like, I don't want to play a broken, buggy, shit-ass game at launch. Give me it 6 months later.
Yeah.
Give me it 12 months later. Give me it 2 years later. Like, however long it takes you to actually have the game finished and polished.
It's like a cake. You don't take it out of the oven before it's ready.
Exactly. Damn, that's a good analogy. I never would have thought of that. Like, yeah, I mean, it's been noted on this show. Some people around these parts might have noted it a bit earlier than most of us. That the end run of 2022 in terms of like new video game releases is looking pretty dry.
Yeah.
which is fine. Like, honestly, like there will still be a lot of games coming out, but like if I'm looking at our calendar, which by this point, because we've had E3, by this point, normally the calendar is like, okay, bam, 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 like October, November, December, and it's like you look at it, and it's like November and December are almost empty.
Yeah.
Like, and it's nearly July.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh dear.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be. I think we're gonna be focusing a lot on a few games. Or hopefully, people out there might play some more indie games. That would be nice. Because I'm looking forward to the op-eds. Oh man, nothing's coming out. Like they were last year. Oh, it's been a pretty slow year for games, and I'm like drowning in like awesome games that I had loads of fun with.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Like there's gonna be people out there who are like raging and screaming about like, oh no, you delayed the game. Like delay them longer if you have to. Like Starfield doesn't have to come out in early 2023. Like it could come out later. It's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't like Bethesda games. That sounds a bit disingenuous coming from me. Hold on. Hollow Knight doesn't have to come out in early 2023. Like,
Yep.
if it takes longer, it takes longer. That's fine. Like, I'll find something else to play.
Yeah.
We get 3 Final Fantasy games in 12 months. Starting this winter. Like, fucking... We never really got a chance to talk about that very much. Because we just did most of our speculating last week about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But can I just take a moment to pause in this podcast and just say, Amy is going to get, if everything goes to plan, 3 Final Fantasy games within 12 months. And one of them is Final Fantasy VII Part 2. And Hollow Knight. Amy's going to die of like serotonin. Is that possible? Like, can you have like too much like serotonin and die?
Given the serotonin levels you'll get from those, yeah, probably.
Just those 4.
Yeah.
Shit. I never. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to count my chickens because we did talk about it on a podcast where it was like 2022 could be the best year for video games, and then everything got delayed.
Yeah.
So I'm not counting my chickens, but damn. Yeah, it's like it's whatever. Like we get what games we get when we get them, and
Yeah.
there's always something cool. So that's like coming
Yes.
out. Like I've got a tweet going right now. I should actually look at that because there's a poll in it.
Oh yeah. I didn't deliberately choose to scare you, no.
Oh, everyone's chosen. Like there's like two like horror type things and like one fucking cute cozy visual novel. The cute cozy visual novel has 0 votes. Thanks everybody.
Oh.
It's fine. I want to play all 3 anyway. It's just I didn't know which one to play. You know when you get like paralyzed by choice and you're like,
Yes.
what do I play?
Oh yeah.
Wait, I have a Twitter account. I'll make them choose.
Yes.
I'm a genius. Oh no, they've chosen the obvious horror game. How did I not see that coming? It's fine. I like horror games. I've like, remember me talking about Faz?
Yeah, exactly.
Playing right into my hands. Do you have anything else to add about broken video games? Cyberpunk, game delays.
No, just basically exactly what we've already said. Just bring it out when it's ready, but not before.
Yeah, I'm
There's
worried
always
about.
something there's always something fun to play
Damn right.
whilst you wait. So,
Yeah, and here's a wild concept for all of you out there who aren't YouTubers, who make content for YouTube. You ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. If there are no new games out, all games that have been released beforehand still exist. guess what? They're still good.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, I played the original Resident Evils on PlayStation 1. They're still pretty good. I'm sure you can find something between the years of 1996 and 2022 that came out. You go, oh yeah, I might try that.
And even if you are a YouTuber, there's nothing wrong with playing old games.
Yes, true. Unless you like review games, like I was basically discounting myself from that because it was.
Fair.
But in my own defense, like I'm gonna come to my own defense. In my own defense, I have like a list of like 25 games that came out in 2022 that I haven't played yet. So I'm set. Like, this is the thing. Every single year, without fail, since I've been doing game reviews, not just on YouTube, since I was blogging them, like, and especially the last few years, where I've focused more on what I want to play and not what's big, the big releases, is like, I talked about this a lot on podcasts and stuff, on other people's podcasts, where it's like I make choices, and I'm not going to get to play everything that I want to play in a given year. It's never going to happen. And like I'm going to leave games behind that I'm like, I probably would have loved that, but I just didn't have time to play it because I was playing this other thing that I loved. So like I'll never understand. And so people aren't as into the hobby as I am. And I mean, even I spent an entire day last week watching fucking YouTube horror. I don't play video games as much as everybody seems to think I do. But like I'm never like without a new game. And like, yeah, I mean the last game I played was free. It's on itch.io. And it was fantastic. The game that's currently winning my Twitter poll is $3.99 on Steam. The game that's second in my Twitter poll is on Game Pass. Like, yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you're not spending 70 quid per game.
Yeah. Oh, I've spent ages just browsing itch.io. There's some really good games on there.
Yeah, fuck it. It's half time, but whatever. It's like we're doing indie game. We're pushing indie game of the week to talk about indie games. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. No, like literally, like I've always like been around it, like and known about itch and like used it a few times because like as aforementioned, like I've gotten to know like a lot of developers. So obviously like I know about itch.io, but like it's only really this year where I've like been like, I'm going to make a concentrated effort. Like my spreadsheet is going to include, like my backlog spreadsheet is going to include games that I come across on itch.io and want to come back to play. And I've actually reviewed like 3 games, including the one that comes out this week, which were like, these are itch.io games. Like one was a Game Jam game. They're just great.
Yeah.
Like Shotgun King. If the name alone, Shotgun King, the final checkmate. If the name of that game alone doesn't at least make you go look it up right now.
Yes.
Like maybe video games aren't for you. And if you need to know more, there's a 60-second review of it on our YouTube channel. But if you think Shotgun King, the final checkmate, and then you tie that to chess, you've probably got a decent idea of what to expect. It's fucking great. I guarantee, unless the rest of 2022 or the games that I've missed are like all top tier quality, the 1 hour long free itch.io game I played last week that I'm reviewing this week on the channel is probably going to be in my top 20 games of the year. It's that good. Basically, I know this was supposed to be about, yay, the video game industry has taken its lessons over games like Cyberpunk and Battlefield, but it is now turned into, basically, if you can't find any new games to play, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Should we do Indie Game of the Week?
Let's do it.
It is time for Indie Game of the... Speaking of finding games to play, it's time for Indie Game of the Week. excuse me. This is the thing we do every single week where we come across a ton of indie games that are coming out. I'm suddenly realizing how sunburnt, sun caught my face is under the white light. Also, I'm starting to sweat quite a lot. This is the thing we do every single week where we see an indie game that's coming out. We think, hey, this looks cool. Let's talk about it on the podcast. And then we decide to talk about it on the podcast. And this week's indie game of the week is called Lost in Play. And here is part of the store description. Help a brother and sister on an uplifting epic adventure to find their way home. Escaping a horned beast and meeting quirky goblins are just part of the journey. Lost in Play is a journey through childhood imagination with thoughtfully crafted puzzles and colourful characters. Play as a brother and sister duo on an adventure to find their way back home. Between reality and fantasy, the siblings explore the enchanted forest of a horned beast, start a rebellion in a goblin village, and help a team of frogs free a sword from a stone. From what seems like a normal morning at home to a typical afternoon at the park, you'll soon find yourself on a whirlwind quest as you sneak into a goblin castle, explore ancient ruins, and soar atop a giant stalk. Lost in Play takes you on a magical roller coaster. The game is developed by Happy Juice Games and published by Joystick Ventures, and it has a release date. It's coming August 10th, 2022 to PC via Steam and Nintendo Switch. It looks fucking amazing.
Nice. You sent me over the notes and I had a quick look at it, and it's immediately gone onto my wish list because that just looks so awesome.
So when me and Moody did our E3 podcast, excuse me while I tie my hair up, because it's like having two fucking radiators on the side of my head at this point.
Yep, that's why I've got one in a brain.
Yeah, when me and Moody did the E3 podcast a couple of weeks ago, we ran out of time to talk about I ran out of time to talk about all of the games that I'd seen that looked cool. And I was like, what do I do with all of this knowledge and information and all of these games? And then me and Moody were talking about it afterwards, and it's like, just make them indie games of the week. And I was like, that's a great idea. Wait, how did you know they were all indie games? And then he laughed. Of course they're all indie games, Abby, he said. But yeah, so I'm just gonna do that, and this is one of them. It I'm so looking forward to this.
yeah, it looks so cute.
There's a link down below in the description of the video. Go check it out. Go wishlist it. Go support some cool indie developers making cool games. And now let's get back into the news, where I've been very clever. Let's continue to talk about indie games. Thirsty Suitors wins the 2022 Tribeca Games Award. This is via the Tribeca Twitter account, which says, quote, for its quirky comedy, artful aesthetic, and innovative blending of storytelling and gameplay mechanics, the Tribeca Games Award goes to Thirsty Suitors, end quote. And then I put a note, the inaugural 2021 winner was Norco, which is one of the highest rated and most critically acclaimed game releases of 2022. And it's available in Game Pass. Thirsty Suitors was Moody's pick for his favorite game of that showcase, right? Because you weren't on our stream, but you were there. I have very vivid memories of talking to you.
Yes, I was there for most of it. I don't think I was there for all of it though.
And then at the end, we all picked our favorites. And I know we all picked 3 different games, which is always a good sign. Like for a showcase like this, where it's like, we all picked different games for different reasons. And I picked Venba, and Moody picked Thirsty Suitors. And I can't remember what you picked. I want to say it was a Plague Tale.
Oh, that stream. Yeah.
The good one. Not the Jeff Keighley one.
Yeah. I think it was Plague Tale. Yeah, it was Plague Tale.
Yeah. Which is a good choice too. PSA, that game is coming out in October. They announced a release date. But yeah, like Thirsty Suitors, was such a cool. They were all good games. I said it on the live stream. I was like, it's like picking between my children. If I had children, I didn't hate children. And Thirsty Suitors are cool.
Yeah.
Worthy winner. Now just need to know when it's coming out. Maybe I'll just get all of the Tribeca games on my team for Fantasy Cray. Just be like, I'll do. It's not a bad show, actually. I did actually pick one up this week. Yeah, just wanted to shout it out. It's Tribeca's a great festival for games. Like the selections that they pick are really cool and really interesting looking games. And like because last year's show, like a lot of the games from that show, I think there's only like one game that hasn't come out yet, and that comes out in October, and it looks amazing. I played a demo of it. Go check out my Amy played 50 Steam Next Fest demos. It was one of my favorite ones. But like yeah, they're just. I can look back at the 2021 Spotlight and go, that was pretty sick. Like those games were actually pretty sick. So I look at these games and I'm like, I'm pretty excited. If last time is anything to go by, we're in for a treat. Speaking of not being in for a treat. Actually, speaking of being in for a treat, I guess, Activision Blizzard internal review finds, quote, no evidence, end quote, that it ignored harassment. This is from Brendan Sinclair over at GamesIndustry.biz. He writes, Activision Blizzard released a summary of an internal review that found no evidence company's senior executives looked the other way on harassment claims. The report said, quote, contrary to many of the allegations, the board and its external advisors have determined that there is no evidence to suggest that the Activision Blizzard senior executives ever intentionally ignored or attempted to downplay the instances of gender harassment that occurred and were reported, end quote. I know someone could probably take me laughing at that statement out of context, but like I feel like anybody who like with critical like brain power would understand why I'm laughing at a sentence which basically reads Activision Blizzard is clearing itself of any wrongdoing, and we'll get to it. The report did not address the Wall Street Journal's reporting that Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick overruled an HR department determination that a co-head of Treyarch be fired over an allegation of sexual harassment. The company said, quote, the review of contemporaneous documentation and statements by relevant individuals shows that media criticism of the board and Activision Blizzard senior executives is insensitive to workplace matters and is without merit. Is insensitive. Stop being mean about us, guys. It acknowledged that there were, quote, some substantiated instances of gender harassment, end quote, but said they were not evidence of systemic problems. It also pointed to external advisors that it said agreed with the board of directors' findings. It went on to say, quote, over the years, the company has appropriately disciplined and exited employees to ensure that our practices match our policies. There simply is no room at Activision Blizzard for anyone who does not practice our corporate value of providing a safe, inclusive, and welcoming workplace that serves as a model for our industry, end quote. The report did not address a report that Kotick himself once threatened to have an assistant killed, something the company called, quote, an obviously hyperbolic and inappropriate voicemail, end quote, that Kotick had already apologized for, nor did it address an arbitration settlement Kotick reached when a flight attendant on a private jet he co-owned alleged he fired her for complaining about sexual harassment. And I'll let you go first. It's fine.
I'll go on, because I know you're itching to.
Oh, I'm good. I've been doing this. I've been around the block with Activision Blizzard for almost a year at this point. Like, you go for it.
I just want to throttle somebody. Basically.
Yeah. I find it all really funny. Like, obviously not really, because, you know, people suffer.
It's just beyond ridiculous. Yes, yeah. But it's just, the concept of it is beyond ridiculousness. That it's ventured into the realm of comedy at this point.
Yeah, it's beyond parody, right?
Yes, exactly.
I would if I was like a parody website or a parody podcast, I would look at this statement and be like, they've put me out of a job.
Yeah.
There's no way I can parody this because it already is a parody.
Write this shit.
Yeah, you can write this shit because that's what they did. There's a reason they wrote this, and we'll get into that in the next news story. But like, it's just like, it's so obviously bullshit. Like on so many levels, allegedly, I guess. Sorry, Keith. Like, oh, you know, like where's the thing? media criticism of the board and Activision Blizzard senior executives is insensitive to workplace matters as it is without merit. It's like people of the board. In fact, no, I'm not even going to be gender neutral about this. Guys of the board of Activision Blizzard who wrote this thing, you do remember that we all talked to people who worked at your company. Like, this wasn't something that we, like, heard about through the grapevine, fifth-handed. We all talked to people who had stories about themselves facing harassment and discrimination while working at one of your companies. Even me, a tiny little YouTuber who has very few followers, spoke to people who worked at Activision Blizzard who had stories about working at Activision Blizzard that lined up with the stories that were coming out in the media, written by other people who talked to people who had first-hand accounts of things that happened at Activision. Like, what? Why would you, like, I get why you've written this report and what its purpose was, but I seriously, you cannot tell me you thought anybody would buy this. Like, you're just trying to gaslight me at this point. It's not going to work. I have videos.
Yes. There is evidence.
Like, I just
But we're not going to actually pay any attention to the actual evidence. We're just going to pay attention to the evidence that supports our story.
Well, they don't need to pay any attention to the evidence because they allegedly shredded a bunch of it. You know, they had a shredding party, allegedly. Don't think I've forgotten about that. I remember it all, Bobby. I remember everything. Much to the detriment of my mental health. Like, I don't know, like, it's just... It was an easy thing to make fun of on Twitter. I got the meme, you know, the one of Obama giving Obama a medal.
Yeah.
It's like, but like, so, like, here's my question to you, Alfie, because this might become relevant because you know me, I'm a bit of a dumbass and I do dumbass things all the time, right? Like, if I ever do anything wrong, does this mean that I can just clear myself of any wrongdoing?
Apparently so.
Cool. So if I do something and I'm like, fuck, instead of using my normal approach of, fuck, shit, I fucked up, sorry, I can just be like, nah.
Didn't happen.
Nah, I didn't see any evidence. I have not found any evidence that I did anything wrong. And therefore, I have concluded, in my own expert judgment, that I have not done anything wrong.
Yeah.
I did not eat your cake, Moody. Even though there's cake smeared around my mouth. I don't know. Where did the cake on my face come from? It must have been a different cake.
Yep. Apparently that's how it works.
It's how it works. Damn, it's like a superpower. I can use this. Sorry, Activision Blizzard. I know you caught me outside of your offices with a baseball bat, but I've looked into the matter, and it definitely wasn't me that smashed in all your windows. That was a joke for legal reasons. That was a joke. I don't even own a baseball bat. No, I don't own a baseball bat. Anyway. Let's talk about.
Say what?
I don't own one baseball bat. No, I don't own any baseball bats. I do own a sledgehammer, though. Let's move on Let's move on to the reason this report exists. The second news story. Activision's shareholders vote to re-elect the board, including Bobby Kotick. This is from Danielle Partis over at GamesIndustry.biz. He writes, a majority of Activision Blizzard shareholders have voted in favour of re-electing the firm's 10 directors to the board, including CEO Bobby Kotick. The annual stockholder meeting took place on Tuesday and saw shareholders vote for or against several issues at the company. Around 91% of shareholders voted to extend the current board's term at the end of the next annual meeting in 2023, which will probably occur around about the time they get bought by Microsoft. Approximately 88% voted in favour of the company's executive compensation package, which included base salary, and short and long-term financial incentives for C-level employees. I've picked like a spot or something on my shoulder and mine's bleeding.
Ooh,
Like it was
ooh,
like, oh, it's itchy, and I was like, oh no, what have I done?
Oh.
Anyway, where were we?
Yeah,
Shareholders were
employees.
massively against appointing an employee representative for the firm, with 95% voting against the proposition. Notably, 67% voted in favour of a report that details how Activision Blizzard is responding to allegations of harassment at the firm. In response, the company said that it will, quote, carefully consider the proposal to enhance our future disclosures, end quote. So the reason the previous report exists was so they could clear themselves to re-vote the board and Bobby Kotick, because like, well, we looked at it and we didn't do anything wrong, so we better re-elect these guys because they're making us tons of money.
Yep, that's what it comes down to.
Capitalism.
Always.
Well, they're doing it because they're going to get massive pay. Like, it doesn't matter what they do at this point. I mean, it does to the people who work at Activision Blizzard, unfortunately. But in terms of, like, the company level, it doesn't matter because, like, 12 months' time, they're getting about 12 months' time, they're probably going to finalize the buyout at Microsoft. So if they all stay on the board, they'll all get lots of money.
Yeah.
Which is why they're all staying.
Yeah.
Which is why they're not voting. Like, why would the shareholders ever vote? Like, and I get it. It was a really cool idea, and I wish it would have happened too. But like, the shareholders were never going to vote for appointing an employee representative to the board of directors, because then they might have to listen to them.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want that.
No.
Do you have anything to point out? Oh, come on, Amy. Words. Use proper words. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Just one word, which we've already said. Capitalism. Basically all it comes down to.
It's weird that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, so many of the problems that we bring up on this podcast, but also like in society in general, like they all have this, like, they all seem like stem from capitalism. I wonder if there's some way we could solve a lot of these problems all at once. Probably not, though. Like, it's not like they're all connected to the same. It's not like they're all connected to the same source or anything. I mean, the French Revolution happened.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
They had some interesting ideas that deserve further examination in 2022.
I'll agree with that.
Indeed. The interesting one is the 67% that voted in favour of a report that details how Activision Blizzard is responding to the allegations of harassment. Given that earlier in the week they responded to allegations of harassment by saying that there was no harassment.
Yeah. Yeah. Eggs in all basket ladder. Hedging the bets there, maybe.
Again, like, it's how, like, I've said this a few times before, but it's like, this is how stupid they think you are. Like, they think they can say this thing, we didn't do anything wrong, and then say the thing where it's like, yes, but we know we did. But, like, they're banking on you not remembering both of those things happening.
Yeah.
It's a classic tactic of the UK government.
Yep.
Like, they're banking on you not remembering all of the things that they've said. We'll use an example. Take last week's by-elections, in which the Conservative Party lost both by-election seats. And you can set your clock to certain people in the UK government coming out and saying something fucking stupid. Talking about the aftermath of World War XI, or saying, like, now we're free of the European Union, we can change those funny numbers in the Dartmouth tunnel. Like, they're not saying those things because they're idiots. They're saying those things because everybody will take the piss out of those things instead of talking about the by-election results, which are the important thing that we should actually be talking about. You can set your clock to it. Every time something controversial or like is going to happen or something bad happens, you can set your clock to Nadine Dorris coming out and being like, and opening her mouth and something ridiculous coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's a distraction technique.
It is. Classic deflection.
They're trying to distract you with the obviously bullshit report of, we have cleared ourselves of no wrongdoing, so that you don't pay attention to the part where they're trying their best not to do as little as possible.
Yeah.
And it fucking frustrates me that people fall for it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, someone pointed out on I think it was Fanbyte, and even they said this might just be a coincidence, but the last 2 times that something major has happened, like, so there's been a major like controversy with Activision Blizzard. The last two times that has happened have been the last 2 times that we've seen substantial information about Overwatch 2. A game which was announced and then disappeared for ages, and then suddenly it's back. So
correlation, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Like, I mean, just I'm like, even they said like, look, it's only 2 times. It might just be a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I see it might just be a coincidence, but also like the next time there's a big announcement for Overwatch 2.
Yes.
Just go to like some of the game websites, gamesindustry.biz, Eurogamer, Fanbyte, and just watch the news for a bit, just to see if there's anything else going on. Because I think you might find Bobby Kotick killed somebody. I don't know. Like, it's just pure speculation on my part, not to be taken seriously for legal reasons. Let's talk about video games.
Yay!
I've had some interesting Final Fantasy 16 news this week that I wanted to mention. The first one is Final Fantasy 16 will have wearable AI assists to help less experienced players. This is from Chris Scullion over at VGC, who writes, Final Fantasy 16 will have a unique approach to game difficulty, according to its producer Naoki Yoshida. In an interview with Famitsu, Yoshida explained that the game will have an action-based battle system, similar to something like Kingdom Hearts, rather than a traditional turn-based battle system as seen in most previous Final Fantasy games. However, he also acknowledged that not every Final Fantasy fan can play action games well, so the game has 2 modes called Action Focus Mode and Story Focus Mode, with the latter designed to be, quote, a guarantee that even those who are not good at action games will definitely be able to enjoy it, end quote. Rather than simply lowering the combat difficulty, however, Story Focus Mode instead gives players a range of items that can be equipped to toggle various accessibility features to make aspects of the combat easier. So Yoshida explains, as Yoshida explains it, quote, there is no change to the story content in either mode. Also, Story Focus Mode is not a standard easy difficulty level. Firstly, FF16 has the concept of accessories for equipment. In Story Focus Mode, AI-implemented accessories are provided from the start, and Clive's basic controls can be changed by attaching and removing them. For example, if an enemy attack is about to hit, Clive will make a perfect move to avoid it in a super cool way. End quote. I love Yoshida, by the way. Gets better as it goes down as well. Yoshida then explained that because this may be seen as too easy for some players, the accessories are designed to be removed piece by piece so players can customize which assists they want. He said, quote, I think there are some people who think that if the game moves on its own, it's not an action game. For those people, there are some items where you can really feel the sensation of controlling the game yourself. For example, a few frames before an attack hits, a slowdown is applied, and during a grace period of about 3 seconds, you can press the R1 button. Time returns to normal, and Clive performs a superb evasion. We also have that kind of midpoint between auto and manual control. Accessories can be put on and taken off at any time, so you can adapt them to your skill level, removing them when you get used to them, or equipping them when you find it difficult. End quote. This is fucking great. I love it. But if you want to talk about stuff, what jumps out?
Absolutely. Well, from somebody who's never played a Final Fantasy game, yet. I do. I think this is actually a really, really good way of dealing with skill difficulties and making it accessible to all players, no matter their skill, to be able
Sure.
to customize it to your own method of playing. I
Yeah.
think it's actually, I think it's a really. I wish more games did it like this. Actually, I think
Yeah,
it's a really good
so
idea.
it's not just like drop it to easy difficulty
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah,
and the game's too easy. Like
yeah,
I've done this with a few games where I'm either wanting to get through it, so I'll drop the difficulty, or I'm really enjoying the story, but I'm not vibing. Like the combat's not really my thing. Oh, there's tons of reasons, but I've done it before, and like there's always that drop off where it's like easy is
yeah,
too easy for me personally. Like easy is too easy, normal is too normal, hard,
yeah.
whatever. Like, and there's
But
no,
you
but
need
there's no middle
somewhere in the
ground.
middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So the idea of like being able to like the dodging thing that he brings up as the example. It's like you can just have the dodging system be as it is, or you can have it where time slows down. So like if it's just if you just need like a couple of extra seconds to react to get a dodge to pull a dodge off in a super cool way, like you can use those extra couple of seconds to push the button, or you can just let the game do it for you.
yeah. You can
That's
choose.
fucking cool as shit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And I imagine it'll be the same across the board in terms of like all aspects of like combat and
Yeah.
stuff. My chair is like squeaking a lot, and it's making me worried that it's gonna just suddenly just collapse.
Oh no.
It's happened before, but it was on a live stream. My chair just went, and I just went, oh. So this is such a cool idea, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to like. Personally, I would like to know like what all of the different features are, but I'm sure we'll get into that when the time comes.
Yeah.
Will I use them? Probably not. I'm a bit of a Final Fantasy veteran.
Obviously.
I mean, you might not need to. Like,
Yeah.
look at Elden Ring.
Yes, that's true.
If you are going to play a Final Fantasy game for the first time, I have two recommendations. The first one is easy, is like easier to get a hold of. It's just Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like it's the best Final Fantasy game for me. The second one is a bit going to be is easy to get a hold of. Actually, I was going to say it's a bit harder to get a hold of, but then I was like, no, you can buy it on Steam and PlayStation. It's Final Fantasy IX, which is one of the older ones
Right.
from the PS1 era. Like.
Right.
That game is also incredible. They haven't remade it, so you can be playing like the original, but it's like proper like turn-based, classic old school Final Fantasy, and it is a really really good one too. But remake, I don't know how they pulled it off, like they did. They pulled it off. I'd love to like see you play a remake from start to finish. Like as someone who doesn't know Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah.
like because I haven't had that experience. Like the only people I've talked to who have played Final Fantasy VII remake are people who played Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Like, and I know for a fact that people who haven't played it, the original, will still be able to get into this. It's very newcomer friendly. But I'd love to hear like people like talking about remake for like with fresh eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely one for me to play then.
But it's like a 30-hour game. 30 to 40 hours, and
Yeah.
weirdly, it's like it's the first. It's like a remake of the first 6 hours of Final Fantasy VII. But it's chef's kiss. I'd love to hear your thoughts while you're playing it as well.
Yeah. One to stream.
Definitely. Like I have a
Yeah.
couple of. They're not really. It's not really backseating. It's just do this, and I'm not going to tell you why. Just make sure you do a couple. Just make sure you do a couple of things. But we'll save that for when you play it, because you definitely should play it. Anyway, we're not actually done talking about Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 16 isn't open world, so it can have a global scale, according to its producer. This is from Tyler Culp over at PC Gamer. He writes, when Final Fantasy 16 drops next year, it won't have an open world setting, according to an IGN interview. Opens in a new tab. I guess that probably shouldn't have been copied over. With the game's producer, Naoki Yoshida, in an interview with the game's producer, Naoki Yoshida. Instead, it'll express the world scale by jumping between distant locations. Yoshida said the development team's goal is to bring in new people to the series by doing things differently than they were in previous games. Quote, to bring a story that feels like it spans an entire globe and beyond, we decided to avoid an open world design that limits us to a single open world space, and instead focus on an independent area-based game design that can give players a better feel of a truly global scale, end quote. Yoshida is basically describing any non-open world video game that has a lot of discrete levels. I wouldn't be surprised if Final Fantasy 16 feels like an open world game, even if the individual areas are much smaller in scope than what you'd see in other games, much like in The Witcher 2. Shout out to anybody who remembers The Witcher 2. It's an excellent game that nobody talks about anymore because The Witcher 3 happened, but it's really good on its own merits. Final Fantasy 16 covers 6 realms or nations that each have a dominant, or someone who is able to wield the destructive powers of the classic Final Fantasy summons. The game's teaser page, opens in a new tab, depicts a larger map, but it sounds like you won't spend hours exploring it like the experience of driving around Final Fantasy 15. It's a departure from the direction the series has gone and a new structure for the development team that primarily works on Final Fantasy 14. Thoughts?
Well, again, not having played any Final Fantasy, I'm not sure what. It'd be interesting to see what the fans make of that one. People who have played the other ones and see what they think of that.
You can tell some of this stuff was. Moody's going to be here. We can talk about this.
Yeah.
Sorry. But if by the end of this podcast I have you downloading and installing Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy IX, I'll consider it worth it. Or both.
Or both.
I own both on multiple. I own Final Fantasy VII, including the classic one, on 3-4 platforms, and I own Final Fantasy IX on at least 2. So, no, this is cool. The thing is, Final Fantasy in general has never really had much of an open world. 7 Remake definitely doesn't, and I doubt Rebirth is going to have one. For reasons that I got you into. It's so weird. It's like spoilers for a game that has I have spoilers for a game that hasn't come out yet because I've played the original. But yeah, Final Fantasy 15 did have an open world, and me and Tori were talking about this on last week's podcast when we briefly talked about Final Fantasy 15, where it's the open world part, which was the first half of the game, was the weakest part of the game. About halfway through the game, you go to a different city, and then events happen, and then you kind of doing what Yoshida is describing, where it's you're going from locations to locations to locations, and that where it focused up, that was the better part of the game. And 9 and 7, specifically, have do have open worlds as such, but there's very little reason to explore until you get to the end and you're mopping up all of the little side things. For the most part, you are just kind of walking in to the next story beat. The idea that Yoshida has just looked at it and gone, actually, this would probably be better if it's not an open world, is gratifying to someone who is sick of open worlds for the sake of open worlds.
True. Very true, yes.
He's just nah, you know what, we looked at it and we think our game would be better without an open world. Thank you. Please take all of my money. For the 3 Final Fantasy games that are coming out. But no, this is good news. Anytime I ever hear a developer at a big studio talking about their vision for the game and that being part of the game, that's good, because sometimes you can really feel when you play a AAA game that this isn't really someone's vision so much as this is like it's a game that's been cobbled together, like as a product as
Yeah.
opposed to a piece of art or entertainment.
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm thinking of I'm thinking of the new Sonic game.
Frontiers, the open world Sonic
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Coupled together, comes to mind with that one. Yep.
Interesting idea. Like, I felt that way a little bit with Horizon Forbidden West, where it's just like, it's good. It's more Horizon, which I can appreciate for sure. But then there's like stuff in it where I'm just like, is this just here because you needed something for this part of the map? And then like there's other parts where it's just like there's mechanics in that game where I'm just like, are these just here because like they're in other games?
Yeah.
Like, because it doesn't feel like some stuff that needs to, like, some of the stuff that's in Forbidden West feels like it doesn't even need to be in the game. Like, you can take it out and it'd be fine. And like, yeah, it's like, okay, I get that there are some human enemies in the game because you got to have non-robot dinosaur antagonists, otherwise the whole like story would feel weird. But then it's just like, oh, they've got camps spread out all over the place. Go deal with them, and it's like fighting humans in this game is so boring. Stop making me do it. But anyway, I digress. Like, yeah, I like the sound of this. Like the trailer for Final Fantasy 16. That was at the State of Play a few weeks ago. It was like we finished D&D. I turned on the State of Play, and it was just starting. It was the only part that I actually saw live, and I was like, it was really good. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. It's proper fantasy as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy. I mean, they're all fantasy games, but like there are a lot of like technological fantasy. Like, as the story just mentioned in Final Fantasy 15, you're driving around a car for a while. Final Fantasy 7 is obviously very technologically driven, and is also about the climate crisis.
I'm gonna be honest. I've got it open on the Steam page right now.
7.
Yep.
Yeah, you play eco-terrorists in that game.
It's also on the Steam sale, so yoink.
I did it.
You did.
I did it. I did it. I'm just really happy. I'm sorry, audio listeners. I'm just taking a moment. Let's move on.
Oh, there you go. Bought.
I can't wait. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
FromSoftware's next game is in the final stages of development. Elden Ring update's coming. This is from Michael McGuire over at Polygon, who writes, FromSoftware is busy. Just a few months after delivering Elden Ring, the game director behind it, Hidetaka Miyazaki, says his company's next project is already in the final stages of development, according to a new interview with Japanese language publication 4Gamer. Miyazaki also said that more Elden Ring updates are planned, but it's unclear whether he means additional content. FromSoftware has not announced any sort of expansion yet, or balance changes and fixes for its open-world RPG. The developer's Dark Souls series and Bloodborne saw substantial post-release content additions in the form of new expansions, but a more recent title, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, received a much smaller update in 2020. In the interview, Miyazaki also indicates that he's in the process of directing his next game and that he wants to tackle a more, quote, abstract, end quote, approach to fantasy. But Miyazaki isn't the only one sitting in the director's chair at FromSoftware. He says multiple games are in development led by other staffers. The developer is growing and improving its wages, Miyazaki says, and like many other game developers, is recruiting for new talent. There's a lot of information to unpack there. One, Elden Ring, I'd imagine is going to get some sort of expansion.
Yeah.
I'd hope. Like, there's an entire like thing in that game. I don't want to like say too much because it's like late game stuff, but like there's an entire like there's a place you're going to be able to visit and a person you're going to be able to see.
Yes.
At some point in Elden Ring. Whether they make a sequel, which I could see them doing, but like for that thing, that specific thing, it's just like, it's got to be an expansion. You loved Elden Ring, so I'm assuming you're all for an expansion.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So are you like a FromSoftware fan now? Like, would you say? Like, are you interested in like what's coming, or like are you interested in like going back and like diving into like some of the back catalog? And
Yeah, I definitely want to play Bloodborne now for sure.
I've heard a lot of people have gone back to Bloodborne, like from Elden Ring being the first From
Yeah,
Software game, and that being like
yeah,
the next one that they've jumped back to.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite
Um,
games of all time, so I approve. You should do that. Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
it's because I never ever ever imagined myself playing and enjoying a game like Elden Ring or Bloodborne or any of the others. But after having played and enjoyed Elden Ring, it's like, yep, I want to do more of this.
You're me 2 years ago streaming
Yeah,
Bloodborne that
yeah,
summer,
yeah,
when I was still locked down, going, oh shit, I actually like this.
yeah,
It's a fantastic game.
yeah.
It's not open world though. I'm just like, I'm gonna rip that plaster right off right now.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
None of
no.
the other games are open world.
Yeah, I knew this was one of I think the first open world one they did.
Yes.
Yeah, because I can remember when Elden Ring first came out, and they were like, "Oh my god, it's open world."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
so I can remember that.
Bloodborne and Dark Souls are like, like the legacy dungeons they're called in Elden Ring, like
Yes,
the
yes,
Stormwind Castle and
yes.
the capital city and stuff.
Yeah,
Bloodborne and Dark Souls are like a series of like interconnected like those levels
yeah,
all together. Like that's basically what they are. Apart from Dark Souls 2, that's different for reasons. Don't it's fine. It's a very different world building game.
okay.
There's a whole. Don't worry about it. But interesting that their next game is. Where did he say it? It's in the final stages of development.
Mm,
Which makes sense. Like, there's always been like I think at least two teams at FromSoftware, because you've always had like quite rapid releases. Bloodborne came out, and then a year later, Dark Souls 3 came out, and it was only really the gap between like Elden Ring and Sekiro that was quite substantial,
right.
which makes sense because Elden Ring is
Yeah,
a huge
yeah,
game.
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but I am if I put my speculation hat on, and my hat is unreachable, so I'm going to put my speculation bumblebee on. Say that I would imagine the game that is in the final stages of development is probably like an Armored Core game, which they developed before Dark Souls and Demon Souls and whatnot. You're never gonna get a Dark Souls sequel because that's done now.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna do the same thing I did with Hollow Knight Silksong. You're never gonna get a Bloodborne sequel. It's never gonna happen. Doesn't exist. I'm interested in what Miyazaki considers a more abstract approach to fantasy.
yeah, yeah. So am I.
Having played his games, I think every single review or like discussion I've ever had about any of his games has used the word esoteric multiple times. So if you can tell me, Miyazaki, what the fuck you mean by abstract? Because I tell you what, it does make me interested.
Yeah,
I'm like, what do you think
I'm
abstract
intrigued.
is?
Yeah.
Because like, there's a whole Dark Souls 3 DLC where you go into painting, and there's like a world in the painting, and you have to get and you're telling me like you're thinking along more abstract lines.
Hmm.
Cool. Let me know how that goes.
Very intrigued by this one.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, fellow From Software fan and Final Fantasy VII enjoyer, should we do games out this week?
Yeah.
Awesome. Games out this week on June 28th, we got 2 games. Phobia St. Dinfna Hotel for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Explore a decadent hotel across different timelines and uncover the dark history of a fanatical cult and your role in their plans. We also have DNF Duel coming to PlayStation and PC. Action fighting at its extreme. Enter the new beat-em-up world of Arad as your favourite character from the beloved Dungeon and Fighter franchise. Then on June 30th, we have lots of things coming out. We've got Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, coming to PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. Another helping of classic Cuphead action awaits you in Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course. Brothers Cuphead and Mugman are joined by the clever adventurous Miss Chalice for a rollicking adventure on a previously undiscovered Inkle Isle. We also have The Galactic Junkers coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Become the space captain you always wanted to be. There are just a few problems. Your ship needs work, there's a price on your head, and your crew are idiots. Seek your fortune and the truth in the Galactic Junkers, a comedic space combat adventure game. We've also got a couple of expansions coming out. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak hits Switch and PC, and Outriders World Slayer hits PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I feel like I don't need to describe expansions to people.
Nah.
It's like, Monster Hunter Rise? More of that is coming.
Yeah.
Outriders? Probably not, because I never see anyone talking about it anymore, but more of that is happening. Shock horror. If you don't know what those things are, I mean, the expansion is probably not for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway.
Galactic Junkers sounds good.
Sorry?
Galactic Junkers sounds good.
It does sound funny. I like a good comedy game. But like funny. I feel like there's like video game funny, and then there's actually funny.
Yeah.
Like Stanley Parable or Deluxe, actually funny.
Yes.
Borderlands, video game funny. You know what I mean?
Just like,
yeah.
I'm home by myself.
Ghosts, always funny. all that YouTube horror stuff, and now it's like, it's happening to us. Oh no. I always say though, like, if like, because I've seen a few films do this now, where it's like, if a third mysterious user ever joins the call on Discord, I am logging off instantly.
Did you like them?
It's like, nope. I've seen this movie. I'm out. No one tried this. And then the PC's getting unplugged, so it can't turn itself back on. If necessary, I'll turn the power off of that to the entire house.
It's like, so have you seen or played Simulacrum 2?
No.
Yeah, it's like that.
Oh, okay.
It's creepy.
Yep. We like creepy.
I've got a cute ghost here, so that's all right.
Hello, Jasper. Do you want to play OpenCritic head-to-head?
I think he does, yes.
I think he does. Yeah, this is time for OpenCritic head-to-head. This is the game we play every single week, where we try to guess the OpenCritic average of upcoming games. Whoever guesses closest to the score gets a point. If you manage to guess the score correctly, you get 2 points. It's a very simple game. You wouldn't believe that I made it up. Last week, myself, Mooney, and Tori all tried to guess the OpenCritic average of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. It was easy to pick that game. It was the only one that came out. I guessed it would get an 82. Moody guessed it would get an 80. Tori guessed it would get an 87. Bye, Jasper. And at the time of recording, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes has an OpenCritic average of 80, which means Moody gets 2 points. Means there's hope for him, yeah. Because the scores are now Amy 14, Moody 10. And our guests have 2. Our guests finally got off the board. Tori guessed the quarry correctly, like the score dead on. So you've got points now.
Yay! And I'm going to lose them all. Yay!
You can't lose points. It's not that kind of game.
No, I know.
But like, I was looking at the games, like, because like I list all the games on the doc, because every now and again I'll read through them just to like say like who got what and stuff, and like I highlight the ones where we get 2 points. Otherwise, I get confused when I'm counting through them, and I'm like, why do I have 14 points when I've only got 11 games? And it's because I've guessed, and like we've done this 21 times, right? This year. Wait, let me just double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We've done this 20 times, right? And between myself, Moody, and Tori, we've guessed the score correctly 6 times, which means, like, as far as, like, correctly guessing the score, which isn't just, like, getting closest, it's, like, getting the score bob on. Like, we're at more than 25% success rate. I'd say that's pretty good.
It's really good. That is pretty good.
Like, I think the last 3 weeks, we've had, like, 2-pointers coming off the board, like, all the way down for the last 3 weeks. That's wild. We're just getting so really good at this. Anyway, it's time to guess the OpenCritic average of DNF Duel. Do you want to know what I really like about this game? It follows games out this week, which means that I'll see a game, we're going to guess the OpenCritic average of this, and literally nobody can go, never heard of that, because I just told you what it was. I've never, like, it's a fighting game, so I'm not, like, up on fighting games, like, I don't know. But, like, all the other big releases this week are DLCs and expansions, and that can be a bit iffy for, like, getting review scores, so it's like I had to go with the video game, the new video game. So I'm as in the dark as everybody else. Fighting games aren't my thing. But Moody's already guessed an 80, so what's your guess, Alfie?
Again, fighting games not my thing, so I'm gonna go 76.
All right, cool. That makes my decision for me. I'm gonna go 83. In my head, I saw Moody's 80, right? And Moody's 80 is like the fulcrum. whichever way you went, I was gonna go the other way. So if you went above 80, I was gonna go below 80.
Fair.
If you went below, I was gonna go above. It's like, I've got nothing. All right, fighting games are a mystery to me.
Exactly.
Tori was talking about Street Fighter 6 last week, and I was just and also, like, the last time she was on, and I was just like,
yeah, exactly.
For audio listeners, I'm just zipping my mouth shut and throwing away the key and shrugging, with my incredibly bright red face.
It's not that red.
I need to stay out of the sun. It's the fact that it's shiny from all the sweat, because it's like,
well, that's true.
It's heating up in the room. I don't like summer.
Give me autumn. Early autumn, my favourite time of year.
What we just had, like May, April time.
Yeah.
It was just it was a nice temperature.
Yes.
It wasn't cold. You could still go to the beach and have a nice day out at the beach.
Yes.
Which I did. Pictures on Instagram. But it wasn't like I'm sitting in this room and, like, streaming Phasmophobia for 4 hours, getting more and more delirious as time goes on because I'm dying.
Yeah. It's even been too hot to be outside. It's like you would be inside because it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. Like, you can clearly see I have been outside at some point. And that I was wearing a vest top. Right, so those are locked in. We've got a few minutes. I don't know if you want to catch everyone up on Fantasy Critic. Because you know what?
Right.
We've done a few Fantasy Critics, right? Check-ins. But you know what no one's done? Because I've been letting Moody or you take the lead on them. And I realized, like, you know what you guys keep forgetting to do? Telling everybody the standings. I wonder why that could be. So I'm going to go through the standings real quick because we are about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Once it loads, I know what the standings are. I just need the point totals. So in 6th place with 5 points is Loxtail with the incredibly appropriate team name. Can't do any worse than last time. He was currently doing much worse than last time. He's had 5 games released. In 5th place with 2 games released, which tells you how badly Russell's doing. We have Return of the Smeghead. The champ is here. That's Mr. Moody. 5th. The champ in 5th place. 5th. 6. With 3 games released in 4th place, we have Nintendo only, which is Geometry Force on 44 points. In 3rd place, with 5 games released, with 49 points, we have Queen of the Indie Games, Elf Daughter, who's eating a lot of negative karma for taking Queen of the Indie Games as a team name. In 2nd place, with 9 released games and 62 points, we have Numbing Inevitability, which is Feywild. And then in 1st place, with 7 games released and 105 points, we have 88 is great, actually, from Amy. Like I said, I changed my tactics this year.
You did, yeah.
And it's worked. I'm not trying to get in anybody else's head. Like, I'm going to go on tonight because there's games I want to bid for, right? I'm going to bid for them. And then I'm just going to ignore it for the next week. I give a shit what everybody else bids. Like, I go on to check the bids because I have a watch list. And if I see one of you have bid for a game that I might want to buy, I do a cost-benefit analysis in my head and go, how bothered am I? Like when Moody bid for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I knew it was Moody because it was Pokemon. And I was like, do I want that game? Yes. So I went for it. I did the same thing with Star Wars, and that didn't really work out so well. So we've had we did one of these last week because Moody bought shitloads of games, and my phone has decided not to load. Here we go. So we've had. I have just picked up Immortality for $3, not $1, because when I put $1 bids in, other people put $2 bids in because they know what games I'm going for. Somehow, it's bloody annoying. And I lose all the tiebreakers because I have the most points. So I picked up Immortality, which comes out in July. Numbing Inevitability, which has picked up 2 games for $1 each. Bear and Breakfast, which I did think about bidding for. And Sons of the Forest. And then Queen of the Indie Games has picked up Marvel's Midnight Suns for $5 and Warhammer 40,000 Darktide for $5. So Moody's team is full. I remember that much. He also has a drop left, so I think another one of his games gets delayed. He technically has a spot, which is why he's kept himself $1. Because I don't think you can make $0 bids in this game.
No.
I have 4 spaces left. 2 drops still available. Keith has 4 spaces left, and I believe he has all of his drops still available. I don't think any of his games have been delayed. Russ, I don't know how many drops he has left, but he's got 5 spaces available. Joe's got half a team left. We'll see about that. And then you've got 3 spots left. You dropped a game and then rebought it, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
I talked about that on a previous podcast where I was like, why? What? Why? What?
I dropped it because I didn't think it was going to come out, and I was like, sod it, but I want it because I think it's going to do well. So. I'm punting on it coming out.
Cool. I made the teams really big. Like Moody, like there's 16 slots, right? Plus like you get 4 drops, so potentially that's 20 games each. And like Moody was like, because even compared to like what we've done in the past, that's huge. And when we added 2 extra players to the game for 2022, Moody was like, I think it was Moody, he said, like, shouldn't the teams get smaller? And I went, no, because I want everybody to be forced to take chances. Like, if we've all got to pick 16 games, right? That's like, I worked it out on the first episode, and I can't remember what it is. Like, what's 16 times 6? Maths, okay. 16 times 6 is 96, right? And then 20 times 6 is 120. So, like, we've all got to pick between 96 and 120 games. So, like, everybody's got to take a chance. Everybody's got to take multiple chances on games.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted out of the game this year. Yeah. Do you think I wasn't, like, nervous about Neon White?
Yeah.
A game for freaks by freaks. It was definitely a niche game.
I've got some that I'm very nervous about in there, but I've also got a couple that I'm like, yeah, they'll do well.
I mean, The Last of Us Part 1,
Yeah.
that was like, what's the American football term? A Hail Mary. That was a Hail Mary right from the beginning. Where it was like, I'm banking on this unannounced remake of The Last of Us, not just being announced but also coming out. See what I mean about taking chances?
As long as God of War comes out, because I've got God of War Ragnarok. As long as that comes out.
Yep. Do you know what's really gonna fucking piss me off though? Right. I'd say I'm on for at least the top 3.
Yeah.
In this competition, no matter what.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna if all 6 of us are playing next year, that means I'm gonna pick at least 4th, 5th, or 6th. Right. Now, if you go back through all of the leagues from 2020 to 2021 to 2022, I have picked Hollow Knight, Silksong in every year. Right. But if it doesn't come out this year, it's definitely coming out in the first 6 months of 2023. I literally think I'm going to call my team next year. So which one of you fucking bastards is going to take Hollow Knight after I've picked it for 3 years straight?
Yep.
I'm hoping that there's going to be that many, like, because like you got to think, if God of War gets delayed, like you're going to have Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Hollow Knight potentially, God of War potentially.
Gonna be some big hitters next year.
Like it might just fall to me just because of all of the like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Like might just fall to me based on all of the other games that are potentially coming out.
Yeah.
But Hollow Knight is my first pick next year, and if someone takes it before me, I'm going to make it my mission to destroy them. And if you want to know like how credible a threat that is, I made it my mission to destroy Moody, not to win the competition, to destroy Moody this year. Moody is currently in 5th place. I took the game he wanted multiple times. To the point where he did ask me if I could see who was making bids as the league manager, and the answer is no. I'm just living inside his head. My promise carried over to OpenCritic head-to-head, where I am currently crushing him. Moody, you pushed me too far with your gloating in December and January. This is the find out phase. Fuck around and find out. I'm just joking. I really don't take these games that seriously, but it's funny. Do you have anything to add to the end of this podcast?
No, just
anything you want to say?
Follow me on YouTube and Twitch.
Do that.
I will be coming back to streaming shortly, so.
Oh, yeah, whether it's on stream or off stream, I'm looking forward to hearing about Final Fantasy VII. I'm going to text you in like 2 minutes once I crack a window and do some other stuff.
Yes.
But before I do that, I'm going to end the podcast. Thank you very much for watching episode 310 of the Words About Games podcast. Go follow Elfie on all those cool channels because she's really cool and she makes awesome, cool videos. And we could all use awesome, cool videos, especially ones that are sort of cozy and chill right now. Like, like you come here and we get angry and we shout a bit and we laugh a lot. But like, if you just want to be chill and cozy, that's what you go to Alfie for. Alfie's videos are the personification of my Bumblebee plushie. Yeah, and then keep an eye out because I'm starting and I'm organizing and starting a new project that has nothing to do with video games very soon. I say very soon. At some point. That's going to do it. Thanks for joining me, Alfie. Again, last minute again. Sorry about that. COVID. Apparently it's over, but people still keep catching it. It's weird. Say bye.
Bye.